We've had a little bit of time to digest last Thursday's game, so let's talk about Jaden Rashada on this edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Thanks as always for tuning in. Wherever you're getting your podcast, hit like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you get an update wherever you're getting your podcast. And stay in touch with the content by following me on Twitter. You can find me at Richie Brads36 and the podcast as well at LO_Sun Devils. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. All right. This episode is going to be entirely dedicated to talking about Jaden Rashada. And then I'm thinking tomorrow, unless something breaking news happens, we'll take a look at some of the other guys that played on the offensive and defensive sides of the football, the newcomers, the returners, all that stuff. We'll break that down. But Jaden Rashada, as the quarterback of the team and the four-star freshman, deserves his own episode. And that's what we're going to do. This could be a 15-minute podcast, or it could be the normal 25 minutes. Like, there's not necessarily a set time that I have here. We're going to be going over the high points of what we saw Thursday, the low points of what we saw Thursday, and then kind of lay out a track of what we would like to see moving forward. So let's go ahead and start with the positives. And honestly, I feel like there was a lot more positives to take away than negatives with this game. At the end of the day, you had Rashada turn in a performance where he ended the day 18 of 31, so just under 60% completion for 236 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He had 1 sack that was as close to a blindside sack as it's going to get. And then he had 3 carries for 2 yards with a long of 8. So not the craziest day. Could have been better, but we'll get to that eventually. But quality day. The biggest thing to take away is he didn't have any turnovers and limited the amount of hits that he took. You have to be happy with that. The first big factor that I think you notice when you watch the highlights is the deep ball was there. Jaden Rashada was able to really air out the football, especially in the first half. He had Mel Constable for a 33-yard pickup. He had the 48-yard touchdown pass to 47-yard touchdown pass to Xavier Guillory for a touchdown. He was able to, that might have been it for like the deep shots, but the other thing that I really liked was he was able to hit outside the hashes. He was able to get that ball there really, really quick. So very impressive to me was the arm strength that was on display, but the deep ball was there, at least in the first half. But again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Knowing that you're going to have a quarterback that can attack you at all 3 levels of the field is going to do a lot for your offense, especially when you have a variety of weapons who can do very many different things for you. And you've got receivers that can take you deep, and you got receivers that can post up across the middle, and guys who can beat you underneath with their speed. Like, you've got so many different types of receivers and guys who can do so many different things that you want to have a quarterback that's going to be able to maximize and get the most out of everybody's little niches. And Rashada displayed that he can get to that point. We saw what we saw in practices. We saw it actually on the field. So that's really good to know that this is hopefully going to continue to translate, but have to be satisfied with what he put together there. The deep ball was really what caught my attention, at least like the big highlight of the night was he had a couple deep balls that looked really, really good. The pocket presence, I was also pretty impressed with. He only got sacked one time. The offensive line, I think, is fine. I'm not as down on it as I once was. I'm still not going to tell you that this is the best offensive line in the Pac-12, but they did what they could. And I felt like Rashada was able to kind of feel out the pocket pretty well. He got rid of the ball when he needed to, but like he wasn't looking to dink and dunk. He wasn't trying to just get the ball out of his hands as quick as he could. He was still looking throughout the field and trying to find this guy, but you also understand that this is this is a freshman who's trying to navigate and figure out an offense. And part of figuring that out is understanding pressure that comes to you. Rashada felt like, or it appeared that he had a good feel for it. He didn't look flushed out of the pocket at all or anything like that. He took off twice as a runner. One of them was for no gain, I believe, and the other was that 8-yard pickup plus, the carry for a loss of yards. Like, he did a very good job of just doing what he could when the opportunities arose for him. But the most important thing was, not stepping into sacks, not holding onto the ball too long and taking bad sacks, not allowing yourself to feel that pressure and start forcing passes or anything like that. For the most part, he played very cool, calm, and collective in this game. And that's exactly what you want to see from any quarterback, let alone a true freshman. And then the final thing, the final drive of the game, he was really, really good. He had two really big completions that went for first downs, and those were critical first downs to be able to put the game away, right? You don't win that football game without being able to take the remaining time off the clock, force Southern Utah to burn their timeouts, and call a ceasefire. Like, you needed Rashada to be able to step up and make the big boy throws. And I would tell you that he did do that. He arose to the occasion and he was able to make the most out of what was going on there. So, for the most part, this was definitely a first half was great, second half was not great kind of performance. We'll talk about the second half here in just a moment. But overall, really quality, and that final drive is exactly what you want out of your quarterback, whether they're a veteran or whether they're a true freshman for your team. Have to be very, very impressed with what he was able to put together in his first game for you. And now it's time for your Game Changer of the Week, brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company, because much like Jaden Rashada, Athletic Brewing has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. And look, you have a guy like Jaden Rashada who can beat you with his arm and he can beat you with his legs. He's a difference maker for your team. And that's what Athletic Brewing Company can be for you. They can be a difference maker because they've completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. They're full of flavor with well crafts, just like a full-strength beer. They brew over 50 styles of craft non-alcoholic beers, including IPAs, Goldens, sours, and more. They're fit for any occasion. You can drink them anytime, anywhere to make any activity more enjoyable, whether that's watching the big game, tackling a workout, or anything else that you could possibly think of. And the best part, of course, is there's no hangovers ever. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-athletic brews at a store near you or buy online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use code LOCKEDON to get 15% off your first order online. That's code LOCKEDON at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. And wherever you're getting your podcast, hit like and subscribe. Turn on those notifications so you get an update whenever we're posting new content, which is Monday through Friday. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the lows in his game. And there's really two big components here, which for some people will outweigh the good. I am doing my best to put more emphasis on being optimistic because I think it would be very easy to be pessimistic, especially like it's a what have you done for me lately thing. And like he played a great first half, but then the second half, which is more relevant, more recent, he was not as good. So I feel like you're kind of walking a fine line there. The most obvious and egregious part of what ended up happening in the second half was the ball placement. He wasn't hitting the deep shots, which they were there. There was at least two, there was probably three plays and probably two touchdowns that were not able to be converted because Rashada wasn't able to hit the deep ball. They were sailing out of bounds. They were just flat out overthrown. They weren't put where the receiver could get them. Like they were just flat out misses. And like sometimes they were really bad misses. But he also wasn't really playing well at any level of the field. Arizona State was just struggling to move the ball, period. And sure, you can attribute that to the weather if you would like. But at some point, you need to be able to take responsibility as well. And we can't sit here and craft excuses for somebody all day long just because the weather was bad. Weather was bad for Southern Utah too, and they were still able to get some stuff done. They were still able to find a way to make it a 3-point game when it was all said and done. You just got to be able to overcome, overachieve, and get past that kind of stuff. So the placement needs to be better. And like I said to start the podcast, he's got the arm strength to be able to access every level of the field. Calling it adequate is like a disservice. He's got a cannon. He can fit it outside the numbers. He can get it 50, 60 yards down the field pretty easily. The next step of that, though, is being able to hit those throws consistently. You can't just be able to throw the ball down the field 5 times a game and only hit one of them. You need to be able to be more consistent with that. It's gonna come with time. This is not a checklist of like this has to be better this week. These are just assessments. First game, we're assessing. The placement's got to be better. This was really evident in the second half. So again, weather very well could have been a massive impact and a factor into why he was not as good in the second half. But you still got to be able to play a full game. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention was being able to go through your reads. It felt like there was a lot of times where Rashada was looking for the hot route, looking for his first option, and not necessarily scanning the field. And listen, that's not going to come for a while. I would not expect any true freshman. I wouldn't expect Arch Manning to come out and be able to scan the field like a professional. That's going to take time for Rashada. It's probably not even going to be in his first year. It might not be in his first 2 years. But it's just worth noting that it's going to be a process. It's not easy to do ever. You have guys in the NFL who have trouble processing and going through their reads. But again, if we're talking about the highs and lows, he needs to be able to work on going through progressions a little more. Again, these are things that come with time. It's not like I'm expecting everything to be perfect come this weekend against Oklahoma State. That's very unrealistic. And it's not fair either. Jaden Rashada as a true freshman is going to need some time. But to kind of put a bow on this, it really was just two completely different players. And you can only blame the weather so much. He went from going 12 of 16 for 182 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first half to 6 of 15 for 54 yards in the second half. That is such a dramatic difference from one half to another half. And you just cannot expect to win football games against anyone. I mean, they eked it out against Southern Utah. You're not going to win very many football games against anybody when you're that inconsistent and you're not able to put a full 60 minutes together. These things take time. Don't sit here and expect that it's going to instantly be perfect or you're going to see a dramatic change this week. These are just things that we need to see him work on moving forward. Moving forward, if you guys are looking for a fun place to take your wagers, then head over to FanDuel because the NFL season is here with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now's the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. FanDuel, official partner of NFL. Wherever you get your podcasts, like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. Final thoughts, sort of, but mainly what we would like to see next from Jaden Rashada. Overall thoughts, good game. It was a good game. Wasn't perfect. It was definitely lots to improve on. As far as a true freshman's first game that included a 2.5-hour weather delay, yeah, I'll take this every single day of the week and twice on Saturdays. Because you do wonder, right, if the weather wasn't a factor, was he going to continue to dominate? Does he hit those deep balls that he was missing in the first half or in the second half? Like, he was hitting them in the first half. Without the weather, is that going to continue to be a thing? Like, are we talking about like a 400-yard performance with 4 touchdowns? I don't really know. We'll never know. So we have to take what we got. And what we got was a very quality performance. It was a very, very good performance. It wasn't great, wasn't spectacular, but it was the furthest thing from bad, let alone terrible or dreadful or whatever other word you would like to use. It was a good performance. It was a good start. Here's what I would like to see. First and foremost, I want to see a full 4 quarters. I don't want it to be a tale of two halves. I don't want a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of quarterback. I want somebody who's going to be a consistent option for me. Now, whether that's the superstar that we believe he can be or serviceable, good either way. I don't want bad play. I just want you to be consistent. And if this is your consistency, 200 yards a week, couple of touchdowns, I'll take it. Okay, I'm not asking him to be the Heisman Trophy winner. I'm not asking him to lead me to a national championship, mainly because we can't even go to one this year, thanks to Ray Allen. But what you want is just a guy that plays the full 60 minutes or more if you go to overtime, and is the same guy on the last drive of the game that he is on the first drive of the game. That's what I want to start seeing. Hopefully by the end of the year, Jaden will really have a good grasp on the kind of quarterback he is. We can absolutely allow it in the first game, even if weather wasn't an issue, but it was an issue. So hopefully we just start to see those steps moving forward. I want to see more deep shots. And by more, I mean the amount you did, I think was pretty good. Probably 5 to 6 deep shots. I think that's great. You want to see him hit on them. And like I mentioned, I am wondering if the weather was the reason why he didn't hit on them, or if it's a excuse that we can conjure up. I feel like it's probably a little bit of both. So you want to see him be able to connect on those more often and be able to just take those chances, take those risks, stuff like that. I love the way he distributed the football. I want to continue to see him distribute that football. You know, there's a lot of talented guys here. It's not just Jalen Conyers, Elijah Badger, and Xavier Guillory. There's Mel Constable. There's Giovanni Sanders. There's Bryce Pierre. There's Messiah Swinson. Your running backs looked really good catching the football. There's Troy O'Mary. Jordan Tyson is eventually coming back. Like, you have so many different options here. Javen Jacobs, like, I just want to see you continue to incorporate those guys. I thought he did a very good job of getting plenty of guys, plenty of opportunities. Let's just keep doing that. Let's keep that up. I don't want box scores where 3 players caught a pass. I want box scores where 6, 7 players caught a pass. You don't necessarily need just one do-it-all guy when you've got the host of weapons that the Sun Devils have. So continue distributing. I really like that. That was one of my favorite parts of the game. Was at no point did it feel like you were force-feeding anybody the football. Want to see you continue to do that. Finally, this is just me. I want to see just a little bit of running. Nothing too crazy. But I want to know if he can be a game-changing runner. It's totally a fan thing. I'll tell you that. This isn't really analyst Richie right now. This is like fan Richie of like, ooh, I wonder what he can do as a runner. Like, could he beat him for a 50-yard touchdown? Like, this is me entirely just curiosity. Would love to see him run more. But at the end of the day, it would not break my heart if he didn't. Would not break my heart if he never was a runner, because he showed me a lot as a passer. So these are just a few things that I want to see personally. Overall, it was a good performance. Really just want to echo that, really want to hammer that home. It was a really good performance. I feel like you would be either super pessimistic if you were to rip him to shreds or you have some kind of vendetta. We can nitpick, but end of the day, it's a quality performance. That's all you can ask for. What did you guys think of his performance? Were you more pessimistic or optimistic? Did you like what you saw or are you nervous about what you saw? What do you want to see from him moving forward, though? Let me know in the comments, or you can hit me up on Twitter/X at RichieBrads36 and the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. But guys, thank you as always for tuning in. Wherever you're getting your podcast, hit like and subscribe and turn on those notifications so you get an update wherever you get your podcasts. All right. That's all that I got for you guys for now.
You are Locked On Sun.
That was the wrong one. I will see you guys tomorrow as we go and look at some of the newbies that came in. Till then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.